Yeah, one second. Yeah, I'm getting a message from Kessel ground to the Kessel webinar on May 19th. For those of you in Central Europe, good afternoon. For those of you west of us, good morning. I think the majority of us are Central Europe, a little bit farther east or way far east. To those of you, good afternoon. I'm here with my colleague Martin Jijs, who celebrated, I think, his 25th year at Kessel, actually a year or two ago. Again, my name is Eric Davis. I'm just going to introduce you quickly to Martin Jijs if he has a few words.
Yes, thank you, Eric. And how long you are at Kessel?
Too long, but that's a different story.
I think 35 years. Is that right?
No, not that long.
I learned a lot from you. Yes. Hello again. Nice to see you again to our Kessel Live webinars. Today we have an interesting topic. Everybody knows that, but to know the details, that's special. The team is lifting station. We start with lifting station part 1, and we want to show you the other parts, right, Eric?
Correct, Jeff. Those who saw the LinkedIn invitation, you probably saw that it was a part 1 in there. So those of you that were paying attention could have come to the conclusion that there's going to be more parts, which they are. These new webinars are set up right now. We're going to remain on the topic of lifting stations and pump stations. So on July 1st, we'll be doing part 2, which will be the underground pumping stations that we're not talking about today. Today we're talking about above ground lifting station, and part 3 will be on July 29th. That'll be the brand new to market Mini Lift S and Aqua Lift S underfloor lifting station. So the remaining 2 parts of the lifting station webinar series.
Okay, thank you. Then let's start.
Yeah.
Did you know, Eric, what does the F in AquaLift FXL stands for?
Correct. These product names have a meaning. Pretty much everything Kessel does has a meaning behind it. And one of the important things to know is what an AquaLift F, as in Freddy, stands for. There's a German word for F, basically translated into English would mean foul water. So whenever you see an AquaLift F, that F means that above ground lifting station or underground lifting station can handle foul water, meaning a toilet connection. And that's what we're talking about today, the AquaLift F series. Again, so these are systems that can handle water with a toilet connection, meaning foul water, but can also, of course, handle wastewater without a foul water connection. So pretty much any type of wastewater from a domestic source or commercial, industrial, normal wastewater source, this system can handle with foul water or a gray or clean water.
Okay, thank you. And second, what percentage of Kessel lifting station goes through testing after production? That's a thing made in Germany. Everybody knows that. Our products are made here in Lending, south of Germany. But how much of this lifting station were tested?
Right, that's an important point, Martin. Again, we are specified and certified under all the German and European norms. At Kessel, we take things significantly farther. We have our own internal in-house regulations or internal norms. And I'd say the majority of people don't know this, but the lifting stations that we're seeing today, the AquaLift F series of lifting stations, every single pump we manufacture goes through a test, electrical test, a pressure test to make sure it's airtight, watertight, before it leaves Kessel. So to answer the question, every single Kessel lifting station, 100% of the lifting stations get tested and need to pass this test before they're packaged and then sent out to the customer.
Right. And later on, we show a picture about this testing area.
Correct.
So is directly a picture from the production. Yes, last question. Did you know, out of 100 product service calls, how many can be handled free of charge over remote support? So that means that we can handle it from here, from Germany, and could be installed anywhere in the world.
Correct. I didn't know, but I asked Darko. Again, Darko's right off camera here. He's running the production today. Those of you know who know Darko, he's our international technical manager. He handles a lot of these emergency questions that come in. And over the past few years, with the introduction of the cell phones, video conferencing, with the control units we're going to see today, with a logbook download function, I asked Darko today about how many percentage or how many out of 100 calls that come into Kessel where people have problem with the Kessel lifting station can be solved via a quick telephone call, a quick video conference call, or the downloading of the logbook and sending it via email to Darko. And we handle, he said, definitely over 90% of all calls that come in, and handle 100 of those, meaning get that person a response. Either the pressure switch is installed wrong, a setting in the control unit is wrong, there might be an issue with an impeller, and these are all free of charge services that Kessel offers. No need to send people to site. First, we try things with the email and a video. So I think that's, I'd say, one of the most impressive numbers we have here at Kessel, that we provide this service to all of our customers all over the world. And again, over 90% of these calls that come in, we handled within a few minutes or maybe an hour. Darko managing that and getting the customers information they need free of charge to get the system back into service.
Great, thank you. So now we want to start with our product program. What do we have? And then we show you our real lifting station. You see the real parts of the lifting station. And at the end, we will do a dimensioning of the lifting station. So please stay at this webinar. So that is a view from the top of our headquarters, right? So it's quite big. And there is already one street here on this map. It's called Bernhard Kessel Street, right?
Correct. There's a new street that was introduced or brought into completion, I'd say maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I think, for Bernhard Kessel's 80th birthday, 70th birthday, or the company's...
I think it's 71st.
Right.
The 50th anniversary of Kessel.
Right.
And then it was his birthday of 75, I think.
Correct.
Right. And then here the local community said, oh, let's honor Bernhard Kessel. And we have a street, it's called Bernhard Kessel Street.
I hope that's in the navigation system. So if you do plan on driving to Kessel, you can type into your navigation system, Bernhard Kessel Street, Lenting, and it'll send you right to the front door of Kessel. But what we wanted to show you here, this is a sort of a new view from high above, which some of you have not seen before, but here gives you a good look at the Kessel factory. Again, so this is where everybody works, where all the ideas come in, where we have our pre-development office, our development office, prototyping, production, sales, customer service. So everything that happens at Kessel happens right here. And all the services we provide to you, wherever you are in the world, again, take place here at our Kessel Lenting headquarters.
Right. And what you could see on the top is the solar panel on the Kessel company. So, by the way, we are the biggest producer in this region for solar energy.
Okay, I didn't know that. Good. Nice. Good.
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the product range.
Yeah, our boss Michael gave us some bullet points that we should cover to this. And again, today we're just looking at one specific Kessel lifting station, but it's important to know there's a very wide range of those. So to keep this relatively short time frame, we're concentrating on one lifting station, one type of lifting station. But just to let you know, there's a complete line of Kessel lifting stations out there. Martin, if you just want to run very quickly through what's available.
Yes, we have here our underground lifting pumping station. Underground installation is a pumping station for us, and freestanding a lifting station. Here in our plastic chamber installation of up to 5 meters, then a smaller one, diameter of 600, and for gray water, and on the other side, lifting station for in-house. To install it in the concrete, here you have the plates where they are tileable, or freestanding lifting station for gray water. Right, that's this part what we don't mention today, but at the next webinars.
Right, the next slide I'll do. Again, we continue with other parts we're not looking at today. brand new Aqualift compact systems. Again, Kessel started out years ago with a main line of lifting stations. We've expanded above that to our XL and XXL series of lifting stations. We've always also expanded in the smaller category for more domestic or small use applications. So with the Aqualift F Basic, one of the most simple, less expensive, but again, high-end Kessel systems that are made. Mini Lift S, Aqualift S, we're showing that at the next webinar. Again, brand new products, completely taking over the Mini Lift S that it's replaced. And again, we'll have a special webinar on that, showing you this huge advancement we did from the Mini Lift S old to the Mini Lift S new. But again, there's a wide range of Kessel lifting stations, small, medium, big, above ground, underground, and we'll be addressing those over the next several months or maybe half a year in a new series of webinars.
And it looks like that it's really a small product, but that is the biggest, in case the biggest product, the Aqualift FXL, what we're talking about today, and that's mainly for commercial use, right?
Correct. Yep. These are available in single pump systems. The majority of these that we offer and ship are twin pump systems. Again, whenever these go into any type of non-private project, it's always a twin pump system that's recommended. So the Aqualift F XL series normally is a 2-pump or twin pump duo above ground lifting station.
Yes, at first, a little bit about our spelling. Aqualift FXL. XL means the bigger lifting station, and SPF series. So that's the letters for the pump. So S for Schwarzwasser, so you should learn German, or it's for black water. P means the pump above ground, and F means Freistromrad. That's a vortex impeller. So with these letters, you know what kind of pump you have at this lifting station. That is, especially it's good to know when you're doing dimensioning or looking to compare this pump to the other pump. So therefore, keep in your mind the letters.
Right, and you'll see that pretty much in every pump we show. So over the next few webinars, it's just not the SPF. There's GTF, STZ, and all these abbreviations have an exact meaning. So if you know those, it helps you when you're doing some work for customers, doing some specifying or consulting work, that you know the letters, because then you know exactly what that pump can do.
Yep. What? Okay, we start with an installation example before we come to our products. So that's a typical installation in the basement, of course, and there are the connections we will show here in detail.
Right, this is about as easy as it gets, but this is the basic. So here we have, if I can just address this quickly, Martin, we have a single inlet from a toilet. So right now we need to know that we need an F system because we've got foul water. We've got a pressure pipe, which is pumping the wastewater to the public sewer. We have a ventilation, which we'll also look at. As simple as it gets, normally gets much more complicated than this. On a system like this, we could possibly get away with the Aqualift F Basic, the smallest, lowest end model we have. But as soon as we go into the commercial area, there could be 10 toilets, there could be 10 kitchen sinks, 20 showers, things like that. These are all things we need to consider that we'll look at in a second to let you know exactly which lifting station is for your use.
Yes, and here this part is a diaphragm pump. Do it manual, was it the right expression?
Diaphragm, I guess would be the name for it.
There that's for that situation when there is a power outage, then you can pump manual the wastewater out of the tank. So that's an additional step of security, of safety.
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So now let's start with the biggest one.
Yep, this is the beginning of the looking at the lifting stations. Again, this is the Aqualift XL series we're looking at here, available in a 230 volt model. Some countries, private homes only have 230 volts available. So we have a 230 volt system. The majority of these systems are 400 volt, 3-phase system, and in 50 hertz, so European power supply. We have a project going on now that my colleague Martin Weiss is heading up. He's, by the way, a project leader, correct?
Right.
There's not too many of them at Kessel. As soon as you pass this internal course, you're a certified project leader. I'm not, thank God, so I don't have to get involved with anything like this. But again, Martin has the project leader certification, so I'm sure he has a few things to discuss about in terms of 60 hertz for specific countries.
Yes, 60 hertz. In some countries we have 230 volt, 400 volt network with 60 hertz, like Saudi Arabia. And for these markets, we also want to offer lifting stations. So therefore, we decided to design pumps. They are suitable for 60 hertz, and it will 2020. But what I want to show you, the heart of a lifting station is the control unit. Later on, you will see how they look like inside and what's the advantage of that. Right.
So now we're getting to the individual parts of the XL lifting station. We're going to show these on the PowerPoint here. Shortly after that, we'll show it to you live on an actual lifting station. Part one is the pressure switch. Ultra important is how a lifting station knows to turn on and turn off pumps. There's float switch, optical sensors, hydrostatic sensors, and air pressure switches. We've been using this air pressure switch, I think, for maybe 7 years, Martin. We used to have a similar one with a sensing system right there that we moved away from.
Yes, right. Yeah.
How long have we been using this? Sort of
I think 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Yes, I think, yeah.
Ultra simple, we'll show it to you in a second, but it's there's no electronic. All it is a piece of plastic with a pressure hose, or basically just a hose, running from here back to the control unit. And in the control unit, there's a small sensor or chip that monitors air pressure. So there's nothing that can go wrong down here. There's no membranes, there's no electrical connection, no contacts. It's just plastic and a hose going to the control unit. So the level sensing of how much water is in the lifting station, which will tell the system when to turn on one pump, possibly when to turn on both pumps, or when to sound an alarm. It's all handled in the control unit digitally, so to say, based on the air pressure in the system, which is monitored by the air pressure switch, which you see right here. So on the digital display, you will see this, the time of day, the actual level of water in the tank in millimeters. It's a millimeter accurate sensing system. And again, the pump status. So currently we're at a 131 millimeter level, which is a non-pump level. So we pump 1 and pump 2 off. As this level rises, it'll eventually reach the digitally set pump on level in the control unit, which of course will start the pump, reduce the wastewater in the lifting station. This level, the water level will go down below the pump off level, and the system will go back to waiting until the water level reaches again the pump on level. Then the other pump will start and do the same thing over and over.
Yes, the level sensor system, that's not the only one. It's not this one what it fits for all application. There are float switches also and electronic other sensors. So, but this pressure sensor, this fits for freestanding lifting station as perfect when the distance from the control unit to the tank is maximum 10 to 15 meters. If you're far away, then you need a different here sensor system. What we can offer us.
Preferably, or the normal method would be to have the control unit on the wall near the lifting station, 2, 3, 4 meters away. Then when you're working with the control unit, the pump is right next to you, so it's easy to navigate that. For whatever reason, that may not be the case. The control unit's got to go farther away. And these are things on the consultant level. That's why it's good to come in contact with Kessel in the design phase, because there's mistakes that can be made here. So we can advise you or guide you of where the control unit needs to be. If it's got to be farther away than, let's say, 10 meters, we would not recommend this pressure switch. There's other options we have. So again, the earlier you get involved with Kessel in the design phase, the more recommendations we can give you to make your planning, installation, and operation of the lifting station easier for the end user.
Okay. Yes, the next step, the ventilation connection. That is one of the most important installation part when you get problems and you don't do that. So that means if you don't do the ventilation correctly, then you will have problems with your lifting station. So therefore, keep an eye on the right ventilation.
It needs to be cut off. That's why you see here in the upper left corner, that definitely needs to be cut off and then normally run to the outside of the building or the main ventilation stack of the building. If that's not cut off, Darko's the one that has the most experience with it. That's going to be the problem, why the system is not operating properly. And when you cut off the system, cut off the top, attach a ventilation pipe to the system, then it can breathe well. When water is coming in, it can push the air out it needs to. And when it's full of water and the pump starts, it may pump out 100 to 200 liters in 2 or 3 seconds. And that water that's being pumped out needs to be replaced by air. So that's why this ventilation connection of the lifting station is a must.
Right. Yes, then the inlet into the tank, you can use our prefabricated spitgut or you drill a hole. We have a tool for that to drill the right dimensioning on these plain sides, and this is possible from DN50 to DN200. Yeah.
You see these are located all over the system. Again, the main vertical inlet is, one second, we've got a comment coming in from Darko from ground
ventilation, like with a motor or with a filter on it.
Or you mean that a fan pumps air into the system?
That's right.
That's right. No, it shouldn't be, because the main thing of that the pressure sender works right, that equal or the pressure of the surrounding is everywhere the same. So there should be no overpressure inside the tank than outside. Should always the same pressure. And if you pump with a fan air inside, then you will have a little bit overpressure. And that it will be measured as a height difference, this pressure difference, and it could activate the pump or produce an alarm. That could happen. So therefore, this ventilation should go up to the roof and should be open. Don't use active cold filter. Don't use any other water traps or like that. It should be an open system at minimum 75 millimeters.
Right, and this is not a negative of a Kessel system. This is valid for any type of lifting station out there from any manufacturers. The pump needs to breathe in and breathe out, so you're not at a disadvantage here. This is a must with the lifting station, have the ventilation connected properly.
Okay, let's go to the inlet. Okay, we mentioned that you all side around you can use the plain sides to drill the holes for additional inlets when you don't come from the top, when you wish it from the side. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Then here, the next is the clean out or backup alarm switch. Oh, interesting thing.
Right. This is a little bit hard to see from this view, but we'll see it in a second. Again, here's the pressure switch we just mentioned. On the mirror opposite side is a square closure top that basically looks the same as this without the hose going through it. And that's the clean out system. That's the access system, so you can look into the tank easily without having to remove a pump. So we have a clean out system on that, or we can also modify that and install a cap with the integrated float switch, and that could be a backup alarm. So the pressure switch serves to start and stop the pumps, as well as sound alarms. If that goes down for whatever reason, if somebody would cut that small air pressure hose that we mentioned, that system would then be offline. You could have your backup system, which is an accessory that can be bought from Kessel, installed in there, connected to your control unit as a secondary backup alarm to the system.
Let me test you. How often should you open the clean out according to the European standard?
Oh, once a month.
No, not necessarily. According to the standard, if it's commercial use, every 3 months. Right. Okay. the gate closure valve. Here we show it in cast iron. Why cast iron?
Okay, yeah, we'll see this in a second. There's a cast to the cast iron system. So if you look at some of our big 5.5 kilowatt pumps, those are mainly offered with a cast iron system. Smaller systems, 230 volt system, for example, that might be pumping 2 or 3 or 4 meters high. Then we have a lower cost Kessel made polymer system that we put on the system. So it's basically based on how big the pumps are and how it's.
Yeah, here the backwater, the non-return flaps, so that the water won't flow back in the tank when the pump stops. So that's the reason for this non-return flap. And there's a little here, a little.
Right, there's a little lever. These are flaps you don't see when you look at the system, but they are part of the system that needs to be serviced. So what I've just learned is during this 3-month commercial for commercial servicing, those flaps should be looked at. Again, they're wear and tear parts, but they play a critical role in the operation of the system. When the pump turns on, the force of the water that the pump is pumping pushes the flap open. We pump water to the public sewer. When the pump stops, the water in that pressure pipe, which is above the lifting station, of course, wants to flow back into the tank. This flap will then shut and prevent that. So it keeps the pressure pipe always full. We don't want that water flowing back in the lifting station. And over the time, depending how high that pressure is, when you push water 10 meters high, then stop it, it moves down with a heavy amount of force that this flap needs to resist every time. So during a full service system, these flaps should be opened up, or this outlet assembly should be opened up. The flap should be inspected. If there's wear and tear on the gaskets or if there's any type of damage, those flaps should be replaced. So again, it's something you normally don't see, but an important part of the operation of the lifting station.
And that is one of the reasons why the content of the pressure line should be not more than the volume what you have in the tank. So that's at the dimensioning important part, because when you want to empty the pressure pipe, then you need, of course, you need a volume in the tank. So therefore, be aware the length of the pressure line and the dimensioning. This volume should fit in the tank, right? Okay. Oh, yeah. Floor mounting brackets.
Correct. Also, requirement of a pump, the Kessel pump, as well as pumps from other manufacturers. The bigger they get, the more torque they have. When they turn on, they want to spin. If you took the pump out of the system, put it on the floor and started it, it would spin because it's has a strong torque. So when these pumps start, they exert a fair amount of force in the tank, and we want the tank to be bolted to the floor. So important again with Kessel is everything you need, you get. So when this shows up on site, we have the brackets included, as well as the bolts included, as well as the plastic dowels that you drill into the concrete floor, as well as an anti-vibration mat. So that's a small foam mat, I'd say maybe about 1 centimeter thick, cut exactly the size for the lifting station. Again, when these start, there's a force in the lifting station. We want to keep that vibration off the concrete floor to prevent sounds or vibrations from moving out to the building. So again, once it shows up on site, you don't have to call other stores or other suppliers to quickly get parts to install your system. You open the box, everything you need is included.
Right. Yes, here the overview of the tanks what are available here. Oh yes, with the polymer here closure valve and this cast iron closure valve. So and our tanks 200, 300, 450 liters. Is that all what we have?
Again, this is the ones we're talking about today. We have the smaller systems for more private or domestic use. And then we have a XXL system that we're not going to be talking about today. And also there's a way to tandem up or team up these tank bodies to double storage capacity. So I think the next slide
That is the next one. Yeah, that's our biggest one. So we combine 2 tanks of 450 liters, where we have then a total volume of 900 liters. And then we have the possibility to go not only to have a double pump system, we could also offer a 2+1 system. So that means that two pumps are working and one pump is standby. There you can reduce the power of the single pump and can enlarge the flow rate easily. If you have here a limited access to the power system.
Meaning you have 3 pumps and always 2 are working, correct? There's always 2 working.
2 are working, yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
so
2 are working. But they start one to the other, because then the amperage what you immediately need at the beginning, you don't need it for 2. The first pump starts, and some seconds later, the second pump.
a start delay.
A start delay.
Interesting.
It's interesting.
I'm going to quickly go to Kessel ground control. We've got some motion, some activity down on Earth.
We have some questions explaining the maintenance intervals and guidelines.
I learned all that from Martin a minute ago. If you follow the European norms, in a private home, annual or yearly service is according to the German or European norm.
It's the European norm?
The European norm, yeah. It's a multi-family home, meaning maybe 4 or 5 or 6 apartments, all draining into that inspection. Darko has information on that. That's also available in the user's manual about what you need to do on site to the lifting station.
Yeah, especially when there's a lot of sludge here in the tank and it could be pumped out, then you have to clean it, of course. That's the main point of this maintenance. And there was also the question what to do at the maintenance, right?
That's right.
Yes. Yes, to clean, of course, the tank and to check the pump. If the impeller is still right, it's still in good condition, no corrosion. It could be some corrosion because of acids, what they use in the building, and then of course here this pressure to the control unit. This should be checked. Something else, Eric.
When we've been on site in cases like these or different Kessel systems, it's nice just to run a test, meaning let water after you've done your service work, reassemble the lifting station, let water run into a smooth run to it, then maybe let it fill up again, listen to pump 2 run, make sure there's no red lights in the control unit. You can downread the logbook. That's something that Darko always likes to see. Our control units have logbooks that are downloadable where we can see all the settings and also see what the system has been doing the past several weeks. So if people have been pressing the buttons or a pump ran 50 times in one day and only 2 times the other days, there might be something going on. So I always like to do a typical test, let the system fill up with water, listen to the pumps run, watch the control unit, and if you just have your green light on the top of the control unit, then you're in good shape.
Okay.
Darko from ground control, how are things?
Something else?
Everything good?
No question anymore?
Not yet.
Okay. Yes, now the main point of the pumps, what the pumps can do. So here that's the SPF pumps, the S for black water, P for pump, and F for vortex impeller. Again.
Yeah, and these are the different powers of the pump. This is the 230 volt we mentioned, SPF 1400, and there's 4 other variations of pumps, all stronger. Darko's raising his hand again.
We have another question if we have spare parts such as bearings and mechanical seal.
Yes.
Yep, if you, we have new explosion diagrams of the systems right now, and those are available in terms of disassembling the pump and redoing windings, things like that. That probably doesn't make sense, but the common replacement parts, float switches, impellers, for example, seals for the pump, those are available. And again, during your inspection, that's something you might want to consider. So your body, the question is often which one do we use, and we're going to get that into that in detail in a second. That's also one of the most important things we recommend. Don't quickly look at a power curve and say, let me take a safe bet, and even though I'll only need the SPF 1500, I'll specify the SPF 4500 because it's a lot more powerful. Then I've covered my bases, so to say. That's not the way to do it. There's always the exact Kessel SPF. These handle most of our applications. Some of the big pumps pumping up to 26, 27 meters in height. So the majority of commercial application.
The flow rate is also important, but the pumping height, that's more important. If you don't reach the pumping height, then you won't pump anything, zero. If you don't reach the flow rate, the pump always will pump. And you have the second pump as well. So
Right. That's one of Martin's favorite tips or recommendations. Again, unless there's a roof rainwater being collected, that can be an extreme situation. But if it's a commercial area with 2 or 4 or 8 or 15 toilets, the pumps can handle the flow. Again, the critical thing is if we can get the height to the pump to the height that's required.
okay, now to the heart, what I told you, the control units here for a single pump system and for a dual pump system. And there we have special options, right?
We do. We have special options. Again, this is exactly what the control units look like. Digital display, very important. The older Kessel control units, a lot of the control units from the competition we bring to Kessel to test and look at still have LED lights, meaning there could be a variation of 100 different flashing patterns with 100 different problems. And then when you see these LED flashing, you need to go back to the manual and see what the problem is, which is very, very difficult to do. With Kessel on the digital control unit screen, you can select one of 6 languages, and then the problems that is happening is displayed on the control unit. So it made things much more simpler. Whatever the problem is, power outage, or the pump is overheating, or undercurrent, overcurrent, it says that on the digital display. So if you go to a site, you'll see similar to this, slightly bigger. It's called the Comfort Plus control unit. So if you need it's a big project, you've got a lot of lifting stations, all the information from them should be going to a central management office, so to say, or room in that building. Then we can recommend our Comfort Plus control units. Then you can get digital information sent to this room, or this room can ask the system if there's problems or not. And that's sort of the next level in terms of the highest end communication between control units, lifting stations, and the building management system that you can have.
Yeah, and this remote troubleshooting means that we could check the control unit on site and see what is going wrong with that. So that's a lot. Yes, it's 40 millimeters.
Right.
Yes.
Important question. Over the next several webinars, we'll be looking closer at the impellers, our cutting systems, our non-cutting systems. The advantage of an SPF system is the impeller that we'll see again in a second, or we'll see in a second, does not work spinning here, creating a positive and negative pressure, pulling the wastewater with solids, so it's not cutting them, it's simply passing them through the system. And again, that pressure pipe should be sized appropriately. So with a SPF lifting station, you don't want to pump through a 40 or a 50 millimeter pressure pipe. There's regulations that say at least an 80 millimeter pressure pipe size.
Oh no, make it right, make it Kessel.
Yeah, I'm going to take this over again. 1 second. Ground control.
One more question. Yes.
One more question. What is the difference between S1 and S3 evaporation mode?
Somebody seriously asked that?
Yeah.
Really? Who was that?
No, good question, Martin, if you want to.
S1 pumps means that the pump could work 24 hours, so that means it needs no stop. And S3 pumps, and the pump needs a stop. For our lifting station, this S1, S3 is important when you connect a rainwater. When rainwater is connected, then you should use S1 pump to get sure that the pump could work 24 hours. Yeah.
Right. So, but it is an excellent question. Important in the design and decision process. The S3 pumps are exactly as heavy duty as the S1 pumps. They're slightly less expensive. So you don't have rainfall or uncontrollable flow. Then you would want to choose the S3 pump, which is slightly less expensive, but has the exact same high quality as the S1 pump.
That's right. That's more theoretical thing. Yeah.
Ground control, we good?
Everything
Also, there's some very simple pictures coming up. And yesterday I went around the company to take pictures of the product with my phone. As I left my office, there was this truck, polyethylene, and when a truck comes, this truck will show up at Kessel, let's say, maybe 1 time a week. I talked to the driver. He was pumping with air, compressed air, the contents of this storage tank, which is polyethylene granulates. about the size of peas, into one of our outdoor storage silos. And he has 25,000 kilograms of polyethylene in his truck. And again, this is not cheap plastic. This is ISO certified virgin material from large European suppliers. So this is not recycled scrap out of the US, so to say. This is expensive polyethylene plastic that we have, and I'm guessing the delivery, I'm not sure what the kilogram costs, probably coming up around
€2.20, I think.
Okay, so it's not cheap. So at 25,000 kilograms, at about coming up on €2 a kilogram, you can see what the costs are involved. So there's tons of stuff that go into making a Kessel lifting station. And the body itself, again, heavy duty polyethylene, 100% non-recycled virgin material that we have delivered to Kessel.
Right. Let's see what pictures you did yesterday. Oh, about the pumps. Here, the nameplate of the pump, and that's always good to check it when you install it, if it's the right pump there, and is it for the right control unit. And of course, there is a ticket number on it and a barcode to identify it. So every pump, every lifting station is registered here at Kessel with a serial number. Serial number is also on it. So when you have a complaint, please look at that, and then we know what we delivered, what is delivered.
Correct. Also on this side here, we see the pump brake guard as well as a strain relief. In theory, you're not supposed to carry the pump, which is about a 25 kilogram motor, by the cable, but this is designed, if you do it, you won't damage the pump. So there's, again, now we're getting into these little things. The specifying engineer, the contractor, the buyer's probably never going to see. But when you start putting all these things together, you know, because we take time and effort and money to make these systems as we do, that we're making a product that's designed to last. So it's starting to give you, I'd say, the peace of mind that when you choose Kessel, all these little problems that could show up later on in the pump's life due to saving €2 on this or saving €5 on this have been covered by Kessel, so we can get you a system that's going to last you a very, very long time.
Yes, that's the little thing. Every cable has a number on it, of course, will be delivered, but that's really poor written, so you can't see it. What we do additional signs on it, so you can really see what cable it is. So that's really then very helpful for this person who has to connect these cables into the control unit.
Correct. Black numbers on high visibility yellow background, easy to see when you're down in the basement, maybe with a flashlight, makes things easier, as well as the cable ends. We don't have frayed copper wiring. They're enclosed in an end cap, I guess you'd call it, so there's no risks of a rogue or random single copper wire bridging onto the other cable, causing a short in the system. So again, little tiny things that Kessel do to get a quality product out on the market.
The next thing, the impeller.
Oh,
and now in purple, there's a question.
Yes, we have a question. Do we get test certificates with the lifting stations?
Yes, of course. Will be this little letter or this post will be is a sticker and comes into the manual. So look in your manual, then you get the test report, and it has and this test report will only be printed when it passed the test, of course.
it passed the test. Our testing machine does not print out the sticker until it passes the test. So basically, that's the certification that you have.
Right, here you see the impeller. It's a vortex impeller. So there is the 40 millimeters distance, so the water will flow beside to the impeller. So afterwards you see it in real as well.
Yep, and a lot of people think the impeller spins like this. If you can see the fingers here, you might think it would spin like this, so it would scoop the water out. It doesn't. It spins in this direction, again, causing a positive pressure on top and negative pressure on the bottom, drawing the water up and out of the system. May I, Martin?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
This is another one of my favorites. This is something that you'll never see unless you cut a lifting station in half or remove a pump and look in it with a flashlight. We have a storage tank. They can get big. We go up to now 450 liter tanks. It's a large floor or footprint or floor area. And if we have the pumps farther away, we might have dead spaces where solids could build up over time. That's why in the lifting station, it's a little bit tricky to see. This interior rotated pole helps support the pumps on top. They're very heavy. And here you can see, if you can see this, we've got a slope inside the tank where the wastewater is draining to the pump. So it's sort of the bathtub theory. You wouldn't make a bathtub that's flat. You'd pull the plug and you'd have dead quarters on one side. So we have the wastewater flowing over these slopes with gravity directly into the pump, into the impeller area. So we have the sort of a self-cleansing of the tank. Everything is flowing to the pump intake. And these are things that I think engineers who think very sensibly, very accurately, they like to make sense. For me, for the engineers out there, this is something that sort of gives you a good feeling. You know your system's out there. There's no wastewater buildup in the corner. Everything's flowing down the slopes in the tank into the pump intake.
Right, thank you. Something else? Oh, that's a part where the pump will be mounted on that. And these are, of course, also spare parts if something broke down, this housing for the pump.
Yeah, we've also, and again, this is the gasket. This is the flange gasket. And again, you can see this gasket is not a standard O-ring that we pull to size and snap on and hopefully keeps the pump sealed. This is a 100% customized gasket designed only for this pumping system. So this is, again, an Kessel exclusive. We don't buy a cheap gasket from whoever and hope it fits our systems. This gasket is designed and made just for the Kessel lifting stations.
And here our plastic closure valve. We used it up to the SPF 3000. It's about 3 kilowatt. And that's our own closure valve. And there is the flap included. So that is really interesting to have a plastic closure valve with the pressure outlet and in combination with the backflow.
Right. The non-return flaps that I think we see in a second are included with all the systems. These gate closure valves, which again can be used to lock down the pressure pipe so you can remove the tank without having the wastewater, your pressure pipe spilling out on your floor. These are available, the pumps are available without them or with them. You need to have them for the system, so it's highly recommended to order them with the Kessel pumping system. Again, as Martin said, this is not from some other supplier. We designed the tooling for this. We inject this material ourselves just for the Kessel lifting stations.
Yes, some specialty here from you that's the opening of the access cover, and we don't throw all the screws directly in the polyethylene, so we have inserts there. So then you can open and close it for many, many times. If you don't have that, after 2-3 times, then you cannot close it. And when it's not tight anymore, what do you have then?
You've got trouble. You've got odor release stuff. And again, this is little tiny things. And like, believe it or not, there's pump manufacturers that don't have screws here. You take the screw and you self-cut into plastic, which works great the first or second time, but it's a source for problems. Here we have brass threaded inserts with our stainless steel screws, so it's a very, very long-lasting system.
And now we come to that.
Yeah, correct. The final step of assembly. I went there this morning to go pick up a pump that we'll show you in a second. After these Excel systems are finished, they go up on the test stand, get hooked up to laptops, computers, as well a pressure system, because again, we rotate the tank as one tank. It's definitely watertight, airtight, but then we cut in holes where the pump goes in. There's the pressure sensor opening, there's the clean out, there's many holes we add to the tank to make it work properly. And we want to make sure these are airtight, and then of course, water and odor tight. So the final production step, it goes under the test stand, runs through a pressure test. If it passes, the printer that's connected to this prints out the ID tag, I'll call it, which goes on the lifting station as well as in our computer system, so we know that this pump has passed the test.
Right. If you don't have, so when there is an ID, this nameplate on it, then it passed the test.
Correct. We get the question a lot. How can we prove it's been passed, whether it's a grease separate or lifting station? If the tag is on it, it's passed. And before we ship it, it has to have the tag. So everything we ship has passed the tag. Down to ground control.
We have a question. Does the wastewater from the separator, from the grease separator, have any influence on the pump, on the impeller, or the mechanical seals?
It depends when the grease separator has the right sizing, and the grease separator works real good and will be emptied in once a month. That's according to the standard. Then there will be less grease in the lifting station. Grease is really acid, and of course the grease could stuck in the lifting station. So mainly when the separator doesn't work really good, so the size is not okay, or the disposal time is not okay, then you could have problems at the lifting station.
Right, but again, impellers, good question. They're something you normally don't see. Part of see if there's damage to it, if a vane got knocked off or something, or for some reason there's heavy corrosion on it. You can spin it with your fingers, make sure it's off power. There's no do a quick visual test on the impeller. Good to have spares on site. We have spare parts, spare impellers available, but the critical part of the pump operation is the impeller.
Yeah, then we come to this slide. That was also an answer on your question. Okay, before Taco.
One more question. Is it mandatory to put a grease trap before the lifting station?
Not mandatory. Mandatory is it that you have to install a grease separator when there is a commercial kitchen. But every country, every region, every city can decide if they force them to use a separator or not. There are still areas where they don't force them to install a separator. But of course, commercial kitchen in general, you should install a separator. And then after the separator, in general, you need a lifting station. And now we come to that part that that here installation of a lifting station is very often in combination with the separator. And of course, the separator needs drain. So we have here all three parts in our package. So there we have, and so there the responsibility is by Kessel when you have this package. And then of course, when you have the right size, one responsibility, you can ask Kessel when there is any problems on site. We take now a look at our real lifting station, so that you see how the parts look in real. Let's change that.
Correct. So here on the table, we have a Aqualift F 120 liter storage tank with, I have to check the system, 3 system right here. Again, you see the 2 pumps here. This one is installed. This one is not installed. Again, a duo twin pump system, stainless steel bolts to secure the system. If you can see the small hole here, you'd be wondering what that might be for. These are, again, a little advantages that come into Kessel system. To unscrew this pump about 20 minutes ago, the pumps over time, especially if they're in operation, heating up, cooling down, can seal themselves relatively strongly to the space, and to prevent you from hurting your back or hurting yourself by pulling on this pump with this small hole here. So you remove the 4 screws on the pump, take one of these, put it in this hole, screw it down, and it'll push the pump up, break the seal to make it much more easier to remove the pump. So here we have the pump. This is a look at the SPF Vortex impeller. This is the 40 millimeter passage. There's 6 fingers on this, and again, this is the impeller. We just had the question. Important part should be looked at during the service. Also, we have the cable to the pump. Just give you a live picture of this. Again, here's the cable. We just saw it on the PowerPoint presentation. Here's your ground. Here's your 3 phases with neutral also, the actual numbers on it. So when you're inside at the site, it's very easy to see what cables you need to use. Again, the tank. Here is the, here you can get visual with a flashlight into the system. Here again, you see the brass insert, so we're not screwing cut bolts into a plastic housing. That's a very short-term solution. So we've inserted brass threads here. Also, this would be reseal this cover and then connect to your control unit. We got ground control signaling.
We have a question. What happens if, for example, a spoon gets flushed into the lifting station?
Yeah, okay. It depends on the size of the spoon. This would be advantage of maybe a free not cut through with a spoon, but that would be more of a commercial application from a kitchen. Recommended would be that the kitchen sink has a strainer in it. We do break the system. You'd like to keep those systems out during inspection. Of course, if you see that utensil or a knife or a spoon in the tank, you want to remove it. If it could pass through the system, because again, it doesn't need to touch the impeller, it goes out under the impeller, so either push it out through the pressure pipe, stay in the bottom of the tank, or stay in the bottom of the tank. Back to the tank itself here. Again, here's the 75 millimeter outdoor diameter ventilation pipe. This 100% needs to be cut off here on site and run a DN70 75 millimeter pipe to the ventilation stack of the building. Here's the factory 110 millimeter inlet connection. If you want to use this, you need to cut here. On the larger tanks also have a 150, DN150, which is a 160 millimeter outer diameter inlet. And here you can see on the sides, as well as my hand here, these are the flat connections where you can drill using a special drill bit to drill to the exact proper diameter, insert the Kessel gasket, then push fit your poly on pumps, off pumps, or to sound an alarm. And
on the other side,
yep.
Here the closure valve. I see you here on the closure valve on the bottom. You have the backflow preventer on this side. That's here in this part, and on the top the closure valve. You see here. That's the to close it. Then you close the valve, and then it's secured. Then no water can be flow back from the pressure outlet. And then at last we take a look to the control unit. Here, that's the control unit. You see here the display here with the where you see what unit. Then you see here we have here motor switch, and a lot of cases that it is off, so it's on. And important is to check here the amperage, if the amperage is right. When we deliver it, then the amperage is in the right position. But if you have problems like on the display, motor protection switch, or power outage, or overcurrent, look at these motor switch. There is a question.
We have a question. Do we recommend another non-return valve or gate valve just for the safety?
Additional one.
Additional one, yeah.
We don't need that. The additional gate valve could also make sense if you have a long distance of the pressure line, and you need a additional way to close here this part of the pressure pipe. So, but for our lifting station, our closure valve, that this one is sufficient to install it. So no additional is recommended. But another one?
We have another one regarding the control panel. Can we use rechargeable batteries?
No. Here are the batteries in the control unit. This battery is responsible to give you an alarm when there is a power outage, not to run a pump, of course. So, and these should be normal batteries. And the batteries, we have the experience and testing, then batteries have the same lifetime than rechargeable batteries. So therefore, we recommend only batteries, and it is easy to get them anywhere. So no rechargeable batteries, please, in our control units. That's on this side. Yes, that's the view inside the control unit. So it's still mechanical parts inside where you have many options to connect. So this is here with the pressure sensor here ends, but it's also possible to change to float switches or to an electrical sensor. So this control unit it has a multi-use. So when there is special application, then this control unit is can also be used for that. Right. So that's for the products. So now, Eric, I think we go on for our last part. That means sizing and dimensioning. And this we do online.
Yep, correct. Yep. This is sort of the final part of the presentation here. Like I mentioned before, there's different SPF pumps, 230 volt, 1500 watt, 3500, 4500, 5000 watt. You don't choose a bigger one just to cover the bases, but you choose the exact one needed for the project. Darko, we have a question?
We have another question regarding the control panel. What kind of BMS can we connect to the panel?
Correct. In the standard potential free contact, or I guess volt free contact is one of the terms. There's two connections in here. One is a warning volt free contact, and that will activate if you have over 30 pump starts in 10 minutes, I believe, meaning the system is still working right, but that's a lot of pump starts within 10 minutes. So that contact will close and activate the siren or the light you have, the warning light, to tell you might want to come down and look at the system. The second contact included as a volt-free contact is the alarm contact. That's the serious contact, meaning there's a problem. That could be pump overheating, overcurrent, undercurrent, water level way too high, alarm level. So those are the two standard volt-free contacts included in the system. If you want to go above that to the Modbus thing, then it again would be the comfort plus control unit, which looks slightly bigger than the normal control unit here. And then you can have the telecontrol, correct, or the electronic signaling back to a different office or management room off-site at the lifting station.
Yes, telecontrol is a good thing for that. It's another thing, not BMS. Telecontrol also helps you when you're not at the installation to get the message, right?
Correct. I don't think we have a slide on that, but we have what's called a telecontrol.
Now to Smart Select, our dimensioning program.
Correct. Now we're going to go through an example, or I'm not sure how many, of how to choose the right lifting station, of how to choose the right lifting station, the right size lifting station.
Okay, there we go on the website.
Right, correct. This is the Kessel homepage. If you look here, Smart Select, and if you click on this icon here, it throws you directly into Smart Select, which Martin is doing live for you right now. We're going to choose a lifting station. So there's a grease separator calculation program in here, but today we're talking about the Aqualift FXLs. So we're going to click on lifting station and size a lifting station.
And it's free of charge, right?
Yep, it's free of charge. Yep, we use it all the time. Our close partners use it all the time. It's available for everybody to use. It takes some experience getting to the right example. So if you would be happy to do it for you all the time. Again, if you feel comfortable, you can do this work by yourself. But again, this is something we use on a daily basis, as well as our partners, to show the end customer, especially the specifier, the consultant, the right pump to be used for a specific application. So he titled the webinar May 19th, that's today, then clicks on create calculation. If you know the liters per second coming to the system, you just enter that down here at liters per second. The advantage of Smart Select is that it'll calculate the flow for you. So I'm thinking, Martin, you're going to click on no. I'm just sort of following what Martin's doing. So he's going to click on no. We don't know how much water is coming. And then Smart Select throws you into this entry table where you simply click on the type of fixtures draining into the lifting station. Martin has now clicked on 2 toilets with a 6-liter flush. He's got 1 urinal, another urinal with flusher, a single urinal. He's clicking everything here. A sink, a shower, or 2 showers, and a bathtub. So he pretty much put everything that Smart Select has to offer.
And these are the selection what the standard says. It's not an invention from Kessel. So we took the standard procedure here in this program, right?
Important to know is Kessel's not trying to trick you into our system. Everything in Smart Select is 100%. It's a one-to-one copy of the European regulations about how a lifting station should be chosen. So it's in a Kessel format, of course, but it's all data used from the European norm. So he's running through some of these things. Many of these things do not come into play. Normally it's the number of sinks, toilet, showers connected to it. If you had a grease separator connected to the same lifting station, you could also put that flow into the calculation. Martin's going to press on continue. We jump now down to the installation situation. Smart Select asks you where the system's going to be. Today we're talking about Aqualift FXL, so we're going to choose a indoor system. I think Martin's pointing here. There's also the type of system. If it's in a residential or restaurant or office, you click on that. Here's it's public toilets, for example. Again, a public toilet is being used much more often than one in a restaurant or office. So you need to click on that. Then Smart Select will use the proper calculation factors to try to estimate the wastewater or the flow coming into your lifting station. So here's the house. Outdoors we're indoors. We have our SPF above ground lifting station. So Martin clicked on indoors here. Natural flow to the sewer. No, we're collecting wastewater. The sewer is higher than the lifting station, so we need a classical pump where we're pumping the wastewater up into the sewer system. And on the very bottom here, if we wanted a 2-pump system, which would be the case for pretty much all applications, we would click on this must not be interrupted. That means if one of the pumps go down, the second pump automatically takes over operation. So that's a must when you have a commercial application. You get an alarm, of course, if one pump goes down, but the second pump will take over operation. Now it's asking what type of wastewater. Martin clicked on a WC before, so the system knows there's a toilet connected to it. So it has already highlighted that light, meaning toilet is included, meaning we need to pick a system that handles toilet water, which would be an Aqualift F type of system. Martin's continuing again. Now we're looking for the pressure pipe. That's again going from the pump to the public sewer. There's different materials. There's different sizing or diameters of pipes. Martin right now is on a high density polyethylene pipe, SDR11 PN16, which is a specific pressure rating. That affects the walls of the pressure pipe, meaning it affects the inner diameter. He's choosing I believe a 100 size pipe, if he clicks on that. Correct, yeah. And here's the most important information is the length of the pipe. And of course, most critical, the pumping height. The hardest thing to do is move the water up. So he's going to enter here
What should we use as pumping height? That's meaning the geodetic height.
Correct. This is just correct.
The,
yeah, exactly.
The distance.
Right. So you don't have to worry about how fast the water is in meters, again, from the bottom of the lifting station to the highest point of that pressure pipe. So Martin put in 5 meters. The length of pipe would be this 5 meters plus the horizontal distance. So the length has to be higher than the height because it's height and horizontal. So we now have a relatively basic example. Total length of pressure pipe 10 meters, vertical pumping height 5 meters. And right here, the system automatically tells you how much water is in the pressure line. So in this 10 meters of DN100, SDR, whatever pressure pipe, there's 63 liters in that pipe, meaning Smart Select's going to recommend a lifting station that when the pumps start, they pump at least 63 liters. That assures that when the pump starts, it cleans out the entire pressure pipe, so there's no chance over time or overnight of solids building up in that pressure type. Here, just change it, just as an example. He went down from 100 millimeter to 80, which reduced the volume from, I believe, 67 down to 42 liters. We've got Darko with a question, I believe.
We have a question. Does the toilet compatible lifting station have a different impeller type?
Well, these SPF systems all have this vortex impeller we saw. So whether there's a toilet connected to the SPF system, Aqualift F again, whether there's a toilet connected to it or not, we use the same system. Again, the Aqualift F is designed for toilet connection. So as soon as you know you have a toilet and you want an above ground lifting station, it's going to be this standard impeller that handles that toilet connection. So Martin's going to continue again to the next step. Now we get into some of the finer details of the pressure pipe. Again, we recommend a gate valve, which is, again, reduces the flow of the pump a little bit. So we've got one gate valve. He has a 190-degree bend currently, 145-degree bend, and these are all things that are required to get your system installed, but again, affect how fast or how much water the pump can handle. Jumping to continue again, and now Smart Select tells you pretty much all the pumps we have that can do it. So here you need to know, and again, we've been talking about the SPF pumps. These are the Vortex impellers for sewage. And here we see all the SPF systems marked in green. That means that this is the ideal pump to use. This is the speed of the wastewater in the pressure pipe. We don't want to be too slow. Here we have a pump, a much smaller pump that's not part of the Aqualift FXL series. That could pump the water, but the speed is a little bit slow. It's below the speed minimum required by the European norm. These in green are all good. We're between 0.7 and 2.3. These speeds are 1.12, 2.14 meters per second. So these are all good according to the European norm. Way down below, we've got custom type of systems. We're using a standard type of exemplar here. So we're going to stay with our SPF systems. And here, in theory, if you only have 230 volts, then you're fixed. You need to choose a 230 volt system, S1 and S3. We just have toilets and showers. We're going to choose the S3. If you have 400 volts available, we recommend using 400 volts. They have a much stronger start torque on the pump to help move solids and get things running to the pressure pipe. So here Martin shows the 400 volt. You're on an S3, S1, Martin. You choose the S1. SPF 1500. He's now going to go to the S3, I believe. So we have an S3 SPF 1500 pump that we chose. So now we chose the motor we want, which is all okayed by the European norm because it's green. And now Martin pressed on the, this is the heart and soul of the program, is how the pump's going to work. So here we have the performance curve. The physical vertical height we said was exactly 5 meters from bottom of lifting station to the top of the pressure pipe. As the pressure pipe runs through the pipe at different speeds, we get more frictional losses. So as we're pumping more and more liters per second or cubic meters per hour, the water's going faster. It's rubbing on the inside of the pipe and making or causing the pump to need to pump harder to get it to that speed. This curve here is of our SPF 1500 S3 pump. So the pump always pumps somewhere in this curve. So where this height and frictional loss curve meet the performance curve of the SPF 1500, right here when the pump turns on, that's exactly where it'll be pumping. So in this case, it tells you right away, when this pump turns on, it's going to be pumping 19 cubic meters per hour. That's about 6 liters per second to the public sewer. And that's basically fact. And that's good to know. So we don't want to choose something way up here that pumps 20 cubic meters. We want to choose exactly the system. And Smart Select, or the European norm, told us the SPF 1500 is exactly correct for that application.
So what do you think is now this pressure pipe DN80 the optimum, or what would you change? By you see here the different lines for different pressure line connections. DN100 would be the working point here, or DN125 or DN150. What would you recommend?
Yep. Just on that point here, you see some smaller pipes. This is the DN50 curve. This is the DN40 curve. Much smaller pipe, much more frictional losses. So that's why you can see here, instead of pumping 5 meters, you'd actually be pumping an additional 2 meters. But as the pipe gets bigger and bigger, there's less contact with the inner surface of the pipe. And with the SPF pumps, again, that do not cut the solids, we need to choose an 80 millimeter pipe or larger. We're not cutting the solids. We can't put it through a small pipe like this. Not recommended. So we'd have an 80 or 100. If we go down to 100, you see the frictional loss gets lower and lower and lower. I would stay with the 80. I'm not sure what you'd say. Yep.
Yes.
It keeps the volume in the pressure pipe smaller. We saw before at the 100 millimeter pipe, we were at 67 liters with the DN80 that's highlighted here because we chose it. We're down to, I think it was 42 liters of volume inside the pipe. And that makes it easier every time the pump turns on to clean out the pressure pipe. So we're going to keep it as Smart Select recommended, the DN80 pipe SPF 1500.
What?
And this is something that can go on file. If you go to can you just go to the continue, Martin, or to the product, whatever it's called? Or here you can, sorry, I jumped ahead of the whole thing. We have our pump, SPF 1500. Now Smart Select asks us which tank we have. We saw the 200 liter tank today, 300 liter, 450. Here are some tanks that are available. This is Aqualift F tank, not an XL. This is an F tank, which is smaller, either 50 or 120 liters capacity. And again, the bigger the tank, the less pump starts you have per day. So in theory, the 450 liter tank you could also use. It's even bigger, even less pump starts. But we have a couple of the options here in green. So you could choose, according to the norm, any of these systems. The bigger the tank, the slightly more expensive, but the less pump stops you have, which has a sort of advantage on the lifespan of the system. So Martin's going to choose one here. You chose the 200 liter system. This is a little bit tricky. This is without a gate closure valve. This says valve, meaning with gate closure valve, which we offer as an accessory. You need a gate closure valve, so Martin's going to click on gate closure valve, go to continue, and here we get sort of a history of everything we entered. So all the pipe sizes, the pressure heights, drainage coefficients, the European norm, how it calculates the estimated flow is shown here. Viscosities, things like that. Everything that you entered in the system is now presented again on this file here, which is nice to have in your system. And here we have the norm is saying that the flow coming into the Aqualift FXL.
Then you have always 2 liters per second.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if you have 2, 3, or 4 toilets.
So again, in this case, we didn't have too many fixtures connected to it, so we have the minimum of 2. If we had 40 toilets, again, then there'd be probably more than 2 liters per second coming into the lifting station to be pumped away. Right, product data sheet, Martin just clicked on. This is the part you can save in your computer or save in the Smart Select cloud, so to say. Here we have our title, webinar main 19th. You would, of course, put the project name you're working on there. Everything you entered in the system is repeated here. A little bit farther down is that curve again that we saw. And these are great to have on file in your system. And again, this is the system we recommended. So Smart Select says the Kessel XL 1500 watt S3, which we chose, 200 liter tank, which is article 11021, is 100% certified according to the European norm and ideal for this application.
And there's the direct link to the description on the website.
Okay. Are you going to
Should I go on it?
risk it and try it?
No risk, no fun.
So here for the specifying engineer, click on that. You go right to the main Kessel homepage, copy paste the specification text, technical data, and there's tons of information that makes your life easier. You've got if you click on this, you go right to the installation manual. We've got the page from the catalog, certificates, CAD drawings, 2D, 3D, BIM files, which we're not going to really mention today, but Revit and high-end files to use to put in your BIM building information modeling system. Here we see already the Revit files available. Click on spare parts. You go to the explosion diagram of the spare part page. Need help, press on contact. So this is designed for the specifying engineer. Let Smart Select calculate it for you. Then all the information you need is available here. And if you want us to do it for you, or a partner in the country you're in, call them and would also be happy to go through that calculation for you. Would email you that this data sheet that comes out here, and you can put that on file. And then you have the confidence of knowing that all the worries are gone. You can't have a customer come to you a year later and say, why doesn't my pump work? You have it proven here on paper that this is the right pump for your application, and you're covered your bases. The engineering side, the technical side is covered.
Now we have come nearly to the end of our webinar. So let us summarize why Kessel lifting station you should choose.
Yep, point one, we just finished, Smart Select. Great tool, again, we use every day, guarantees you the exact lifting station for your application.
Yes. Second, full BIM and CAD data. That's important for the specifier, especially in the planning phase, that you can use our data to implement in your drawing.
Point three, Service Contract Plus. Some of you may not heard of this. This is a program we offer, or a package we offer for our grease separators as well as lifting stations. This is an additional package that can be purchased, and we offer a 5-year program where if you order this package, all spare parts for the system, meaning pumps, pressure switches, control units, whatever you might have, are provided free of charge if they fail. Again, that's the confidence we have, all the testing we've done, that these are very, very high-end systems. But if you want to calculate your costs, you might be doing a cost analysis of your building, energy usage, maintenance, spare parts. Then you have your fixed costs. You order the package, the cost is fixed. The amount of money for spare parts is fixed at that package cost. And whether you get 2 or 10 or 20 free of charge control units or lifting stations, you have fixed costs for the next 5 years.
Yes, and the last point, live off-site customer service support. So I think it's a 24-hour support, what we can offer nearly.
Right, Darko doesn't sleep, so his phone's always available for you. He'd be the point of contact. If you have cases where you're going to site and there's many pumps, or it could be a little bit tricky, contact us, contact Darko maybe the day before you go, just so he can have things set up, telephone free, that he can help you when you're on site.
Okay, that's our last slide. Thank you for watching. The next webinars, we heard in the beginning, July 1. We have the next webinar in July 29. And if in July 1, we have the next webinar at Kessel, new products, new webinars, and something else. Our partner also posts some interesting things, some interesting installation. Let us make a community where we share information all over the world. So this helps us to give you the best solution, right?
Correct, yep. I guess that's a wrap on our side. On my end, I'll say thanks very much for watching. Thanks, Darko, for the ground control support. If you have questions, I'm not sure if the chat box stays open. We're going to close that down. We're recording this, so this will show up on the internet, on the YouTube channel, to pass on to your customers, or to listen to or watch again in peace and quiet. But from my end, again, thank you very much, and I'll give it to Martin for the final word.
Okay. Thank you very much, too. Thank you, Eric, for this nice presentation, and hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.